The lamp is good for another hour, perhaps 2 if the oil holds. You have learned in this city to walk by the light of just one lamp at a time. It is just past 11, and the fog has already decided what kind of night this is going to be. It curls around your ankles like something that knows you. Above your head, the gas lamp hums, the small, tired hum of a thing that has been awake too long. Its flame is barely a flame, more a yellow stain on the dark, casting a small circle of light onto the wet stone at your feet. Inside that circle, a plane tree leaf, wet on the cobble. The street ahead of you bends to the left and disappears. You cannot see the end of it. You are not meant to. This is not the London of carriages and ballrooms, not the London of films, with the painted faces and the candlelit windows and the snow falling decorative and clean. This is the other London, the one that lives between midnight and the first cart of milk at 4, the one that smells of wet coal and damp wool and the faint sweetness of the river half a mile away, the one nobody writes about, because at this hour nobody is awake to remember it. The street is not asleep. The street is holding its breath. Tonight you are going to walk through it slowly, past the lamplighter on his last round, past the watchman calling the half hour, past the one lit window above the chandler's shop where a woman is for some reason still awake. You are not going anywhere in particular. You are just walking. And by the time the sky starts to gray, you will already be asleep. Hey everyone. Tonight we're diving into the strangest, quietest 4 hours in the life of a great city. The hours between the last pub closing at midnight and the first baker lighting his oven at 4. London in the 1870s was the largest city the world had ever built, 4 million people, the capital of an empire that ran around the world without setting, and yet for 4 hours every single night that city went somewhere nobody alive ever quite followed. It did not sleep, not exactly. It went quiet, and the quiet, the documents tell us, was the city's other half, the half no clerk recorded and no novelist wrote, because the people who would have done the recording were the ones asleep. Tonight, we are spending 2 hours in the streets of Victorian London with a city that for 4 hours each night almost did not exist. Before we begin, if you're enjoying this, a quick like helps a lot, and if you actually like what I do here, consider subscribing. No pressure, but it does mean the algorithm stops yelling at me. Drop a comment, too. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I love seeing who's up late with me around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe open a window or turn on a fan for that soft background noise, and let's ease into tonight's story together. You begin to walk. Your first step is small, almost apologetic, as if you are sorry to disturb the wet stone. The sound of it surprises you, louder than you thought, less yours than you thought. The cobble has been here 120 years, and your one step is the 17,000th quiet thing it has heard since midnight. The smell reaches you before the next image does. Coal smoke, mostly. Old coal smoke, the kind that has been hanging in the air since the last fire was banked. Damp wool from somewhere, a coat, perhaps, hung on a railing to dry, forgotten. The faint, warm yeast of a bakery 2 streets away, not yet alight, but already breathing. And underneath all of it, the river. You do not see the river. You do not need to. The river is always there, half a mile away, in the form of a faint,
almost sweet exhalation of cold water and silt. You walk on. The fog parts for you, the way a slow animal parts for someone it has decided not to mind. 40 paces, 50. The yellow circle of the next lamp finds you before you find it. There is a man under it. His name is Albert Cribb, though you will not learn it tonight. He is 58 years old. He is, and his father was, and his grandfather was, a light lamper for the Gas Light and Coke Company on this particular stretch of streets between the Chandlers at one end and the iron railings of the church burial ground. He walks, on average, between 8 and 9 miles a night, doing each of his lamps twice, once to light it at dusk, once to dim or extinguish it before dawn. There is no formal register at the company's office that records who walks which streets. The men simply walk the streets their fathers walked. One night, without ceremony, the son starts carrying the pole, and the father starts carrying nothing. Within a year, the father has stopped coming. Within a decade, nobody on the route remembers there was ever a father. Albert Cribb's son is 7. In 4 more years, he will be carrying the ladder.
Tonight, Albert is at the small lamp on the corner, dimming it for the small hours. He is wearing a long, dark coat that has been long and dark for a long time. The buttons do not match. The collar is turned up against the damp. He has a short ladder folded under one arm, 6 rungs, the wood blackened by handling, and a brass pole resting against his shoulder. At the top of the pole is a small hook, and beside the hook a smaller wick, and beside the wick a tiny brass cap on a chain. The cap is for snuffing, the wick is for lighting, the hook is for the iron handle at the top of every lamp, which he must reach up and turn slowly to coax the gas inside down to a sleeping blue, or all the way off. He does not look at you. He has no reason to. He has done this street already, hours ago, when the dark first came. Now he is doing it in reverse, extinguishing the lamps that are no longer needed, leaving lit only the ones the parish has paid to keep burning all night long, every 4th or 5th one, the bare minimum that a vestry committee in 1859 decided was enough to discourage thieves and reassure widows. He climbs 3 rungs. He does not need the top 3. He reaches the lamp's iron handle with the hook, turns it the small, careful turn, and the lamp's hum changes, softens, goes lower, becomes almost a held breath. The yellow stain on the stone below his feet shrinks by 1/3. He comes down, folds the ladder against his hip, adjusts the pole. As he passes you, he does not tip his hat. He does not nod. He has, in 30 years on this route, learned the unwritten covenant of the late walker, which is, do not require to be seen. The streets at this hour belong, in a quiet, shared way, to the few who are awake in them. Acknowledgement is a thing the day asks for. The night asks only that you let each other pass. You notice only now the small folded paper wedged into the iron base of the lamp behind him, a handbill perhaps, cream-colored, damp at one corner, folded once, then tucked into the curl of cast iron where the lamp-post meets the pavement. Somebody put it there for somebody else to find. You do not pick it up, not yet. It is not yours to pick up. You file it somewhere behind your eyes, the way you file the kind of thing you have not finished noticing.
You walk on. This is the first kind of person who outlasts the night. the man who every night carries his father's pole. You walk 40 paces more, and the second figure finds you. You hear him before you see him. His call comes through the fog from somewhere ahead and to the left, not loud, but carrying, the way a voice carries through water. He is calling the half hour. The words are old words. They are not his words. They are the watchman's words, the same words a watchman called on this same street in 1810 and 1750, and likely earlier than that, because the formula has been worn smooth by repetition, and nobody has bothered to change it. Past 11 and a foggy night. He calls it once and waits, long enough for somebody in a bed above the street to hear him, register him, and turn over. Then he calls it again, softer the second time, the way you might repeat a thing to a sleeping child to keep them asleep. His name is Mr. Pettifer. He is 68. He was a sailmaker before he was a watchman, and before he was a sailmaker, he was a boy in a chandler's shop in Limehouse, which is, by an oddness of the parish books, the same chandler's shop you will walk past tonight in 3 streets' time, with the single lit window above it. He does not know this. He has never been told. He calls the half hour past a shop he last entered in 1819, and the woman who is awake in the room above it tonight is, in a small sideways way, the inheritor of a man he once carried sailcloth for. The city is full of these accidental geometries, and the people inside them do not, as a rule, know. When you find him, he is standing under a different lamp, one of the all-night ones, dim now, the yellow shrunk to a coin on the pavement, and he is much older than you expected. His greatcoat is too large for him. His lantern, hung from a hook on his belt, is older than he is. The horn panes are scratched milky. The flame inside is small and patient. He has a wooden rattle in his right hand, not for music, for alarm. If something happened on his beat, the rattle is what he would spin, and the rattle is what the parish would hear, and the parish would, in theory, come. Nothing has happened on his beat tonight. Nothing has happened most nights of his 30 years on it. This was before the Metropolitan Police arrived in the late 1820s, the entire night security of a city of millions. A handful of men of an age too old for any other work, walking beats they had been given because nobody younger had wanted them, calling out the hour and the weather into the dark. After Peel's men arrived, the watchmen of London were meant to disappear. They did not entirely. The parishes kept theirs here and there for a generation more. Some streets still have one, quiet streets, churchyard streets, the kind of streets where nobody has been robbed in living memory. A few of them will still have a watchman, calling the hour into the fog, well into the last decade of the century. The call is, in a way, not a security call. It is a sound that lives above the city like a low ceiling. From inside a warm bed, the watchman's call is a kind of audible blanket. It says, "You are not alone. Someone is keeping watch. Sleep on." He nods to you as you pass. He is allowed to. He is paid to. This is the second kind of person who outlasts the night, the man whose voice has become a roof. You walk on. 5 minutes, 10. The fog thickens, then thickens again, the way a sea does when you stand at its edge. The third figure you find is the smallest. His name is Jem. He has no surname, or at least none that anyone has bothered to give him. The workhouse from which the baker took him 3 years ago entered him in the parish book as J, male, age 9, no claimants, and the master baker, who came down on a Wednesday in autumn to choose a boy, added a name to the front of the J and called the matter settled. Jem is 12 now. He is small for 12, the way a child raised on bread and weak tea is small. He has no coat. He has a hat too large for him, pulled low. He is leaning against the closed side door of the bakery, not the front door, which faces the street, but a plain door in a narrow passage that smells, even from where you stand, of yeast and warm flour. He is eating something slowly from a folded paper in his other hand.
He is the baker's apprentice. The whole bakery behind him is dark, except for a single low gas mantle in the very back, turned down to a blue thread, just enough for him to see his way to the oven. In an hour, perhaps less, he will be inside. He will rake the banked coals. He will feed the fire. He will mix the first dough of the day, the small loaves the early customers will buy on their way to work at 6. He started this trade at 9. He has worked at this bakery since he was 10. He sleeps, when he sleeps, on a flour sack in the corner of the back room, and the flour sack is warm because the brick wall behind it backs onto the oven. And there is, in the small accounting of his life, a real pleasure in that warmth, which is the closest thing to a bed of his own that he has ever owned. He sees you. He does not move. He has, in the 3 years he has been doing this, become a quiet, small expert in the people who walk past at this hour. The lamplighter, the watchman, the constable on his beat, the occasional drunk weaving home, the rare, unexplained late walker like you. None of them have ever spoken to him. He does not require it. He goes back to his folded paper. This is the third kind of person who outlasts the night, the boy whose work has begun before the work has begun. You walk on. 3 figures in the first half hour. Albert Cribb, who carries his father's pole. Mr. Pettifer, whose voice is a roof. Jem, whose work has begun before the work has begun. You file them somewhere behind your eyes, the way you have already filed the folded paper at the base of the lamp. They will come back to you later. The people who outlast the night always do. The street ahead bends to the left and disappears. The lamp is good for another hour, perhaps 2 if the oil holds. You have learned in this city how to walk by the light of just 1 lamp at a time. You walk on, and the street widens. You did not notice it widening because the fog hides the edges, and a street in fog seems to have only the width of the few yards you can see. But you have come, without registering it, to a small triangular junction where 3 roads meet, and the buildings around the junction step back from the pavement by an extra foot or 2, as if to give the night more room to gather. There is an iron drinking fountain in the middle of the triangle, dry at this hour. There is a parish bench against one wall, its slates darkened by rain. There is, above a shop front on the far side, a single lit window, small, yellow, square, the curtain drawn, but not perfectly drawn, a thin gold line of light leaking down the side. The shop beneath it has a sign you cannot read. You do not need to read it. You can smell it. Lamp oil, beeswax, the faint mineral note of pewter and tin. This is the chandler's shop, the one Mr. Pettifer worked in 1819, when he was small enough to be useful and not yet old enough to be paid. He does not know, walking his beat tonight, that the lit window above the shop belongs to a woman who is, in a sideways, accidental way, the inheritor of his old life. He has called the half-hour past her window for 30 years and not once thought to look up. You look up. She is there, or her shape is. Behind the gauze of the curtain, she is sitting at a small table, slightly bent forward, doing something with her hands. You cannot see what. You can see only that her hands are moving, that the movement is small and regular,
and that the lamp on the table beside her is turned low, low enough to work by, not low enough to sleep by. She is not stopping. She has not stopped for some time. You look at her for 30 seconds, perhaps less. You do not invent a story for her. You do not need to. She is awake at 11:30 in a city of 4 million, and that is enough. You walk on, slowly. The lit window stays with you the way a quiet sound stays, not in the ear, in the chest. There was a man, a generation before this one, who tried to count the women in the lit windows.
His name was Henry Mayhew. He was a journalist in the older sense, meaning a man who walked, who asked, who wrote down. In the autumn of 1849, he began to walk into the parts of London the rest of London did not walk into. He spoke to the costermongers in the markets. He spoke to the watercress girls who left their lodgings at 4 a.m. to fetch their cresses for the breakfast trade. He spoke to the night cabmen, the lamplighterers, the watchmen, the scavengers. He wrote down what they told him in the cadence in which they said it. He counted them where he could, and he put their words in print. In 1851, he began to publish the result in volumes. He called it London Labor and the London Poor. You will not read his book tonight. You only need to know one of his sentences. It is in the second volume, in a passage on the night trades. It is the kind of sentence you can say aloud to yourself, slowly, in a foggy street at 11:30, and feel the meaning of it settle on you like the damp settles on a coat. There exists, he wrote, between the hours when the great city retires and the hours when it stirs again, a London which the gentleman of the West End has never beheld, and would not, were he shown it, believe to be his own. He meant the lamplighter with his father's pole. He meant the watchman whose voice is a roof. He meant the boy on the flour sack behind the bakery wall. He meant the woman at the lit window with her hands moving in small, regular motion. He meant the cabman dozing on his perch outside a hotel he could not afford to enter. He meant the river waterman who had crossed at midnight with a barge of coal. He meant a population of perhaps 150,000 people whose hours of work were the hours nobody in the West End was awake to count, and whose work, taken together, was the only reason the West End could sleep. You are walking at this very moment inside the sentence Mayhew wrote in 1851. You belong at this hour to a sentence Henry Mayhew wrote in 1851. You take 3 more steps under 3 more lamps, and you feel the sentence press up through the cobble into the soles of your feet. It is not a heavy sentence. It is not even an unwelcome one. It is just a thing that is, now, part of what you are wearing.
It is worth saying, in the quiet, what the sentence means. From the view of a gentleman of the West End, a clubman in Pall Mall, a banker in his Belgravia bed, the sentence is a kind of accusation. It says, your city, the city you believe to be yours, is only half the city. The other half has been working all this while you were eating your supper and reading your Times and turning down your lamp. The other half has been working so that you could turn down your lamp. The other half does not, on the whole, hate you for not knowing about it. The other half only asks that you not, when shown it, refuse to believe it. From the view of the lamplighter and the watchman and the boy and the woman at the window, the sentence is not an accusation at all. Albert Cribb does not consider himself unseen. He considers himself a man with a root. Mr. Pettifer does not consider himself forgotten. He considers himself the keeper of an audible blanket the parish has paid him for 30 years to provide. Jem does not consider himself a child laborer. He considers himself a boy with a flour sack bed warmed by a brick wall and a folded paper of supper, and a trade that in 5 years will make him a journeyman. The woman at the window does not consider herself a piece worker drowning in a sweatshop economy. She considers herself awake, with a lamp, with her hands moving, in the only hour of the day that she has been able to call her own since she was a girl.
From today's view, this looks like a city that had abandoned 150,000 of its own to a dark it refused to count. From their view, it was the work that made the city possible, done by the people who had agreed, without ever being asked, to do it in the dark. And that's what's so chilling. The chilling is not the suffering. The chilling is the agreement. The chilling is that nobody on either side of the sentence considered themselves to be inside an arrangement that could have been otherwise. The chilling is that the West End slept and the night people worked, and both halves of the city, by their separate calendars, considered the arrangement to be the way the world was made. Mayhew wrote his sentence to break the agreement. He failed in the small sense. The agreement outlived him by 60 years. He succeeded in the large sense. The sentence outlived him too, and the sentence is, in some thinned-down, inherited form, with you in this fog tonight. You walk on. The triangular junction falls behind you. The lit window, the woman with the moving hands, slips into the fog, becomes a faint gold dot, then nothing. Mr. Pettifer's call comes again from a street away, softer, the second of his half-hour repetitions. Past 11 and a foggy night. The city does what it has been doing since long before Mayhew, and will go on doing long after you have forgotten his name. It works in the dark, on a register the day does not keep. The next lamp finds you. The yellow circle finds your feet. You look down. The plane tree leaf has stayed with you, or another one like it has, wet on the cobble, inside the yellow. You are walking, still, inside the sentence Mayhew wrote. You always will be now. That is the small price of having read it.
The cold has reached your feet. You did not notice it reaching. The damp got into the seams of your boots somewhere between Mr. Pettifer's call and the chandler's window, and now, standing at the edge of the triangular junction with Mayhew's sentence still settling on you, you become aware that your toes have gone the small, slow numb that the city's old walkers know by another name. It is not unpleasant, it is only present. A reminder that your body has been outdoors for 40 minutes, and that 40 minutes outdoors at 11:30 in a London fog is its own small, unspoken agreement with the night. You think then, and only then, because the cold in your feet has reminded you of standing, of the folded paper. It has been sitting somewhere behind your eyes since you saw it tucked into the iron base of Albert Cribb's lamp. The cream-colored corner, the dampness, the single fold. You filed it then, the way you file the kind of thing you have not finished noticing, and the file has in the last quiet minute come back open. You stop. You stand still on the wet stone. You consider. You could walk on. You probably should walk on. The handbill is not yours. Somebody put it there for somebody else to find. There are small unwritten rules about what a late walker does and does not lift, and the rules, you have begun to understand, are why the night works at all.
The light lamper does not look at you. You do not look at the watchman. The boy does not move when you pass. The fog does not part for any of you until it decides to, and the things that have been placed by hands you do not know are, as a rule, not yours to move. But you also know, standing in the fog at the edge of the triangle, that nobody else is coming. The 3 streets branching off the triangle hold no other set of footsteps. The handbell has been waiting. It has perhaps been waiting since this morning. It has perhaps been waiting for somebody who never came. You turn around. You walk back the way you came, slowly. The cobble that did not give for your first step does not give now. The yellow circle of the next lamp passes over your shoulders. The next one, dimmer, finds your back. You count lamps the way you would count the beads of a root. First, second, third, and at the 4th you find Albert Cribb's, the one he dimmed for the small hours, its yellow stain shrunk to a coin on the pavement.
He is gone, of course. He has walked his next 40 paces. He is somewhere ahead of you now, in the streets you have not yet entered, dimming another lamp. The handbill is still there. You crouch. You did not expect to crouch. The lamp is 6 feet tall. The iron base is at ankle height. To reach the folded paper, you must lower yourself onto your heels, the way a child lowers itself to look at something small in the grass. There is a small surprise in the act of crouching at midnight in a fog. The world reshuffles. The yellow stain is now wide as a small table around you. The cobble, this close, has texture you did not know it had. Chips of mica in the granite, faint white veins, the small black dot of something that was once organic. A plane tree leaf has lodged near the base of the lamp, half under the iron, wet, dark, beginning to soften back into the stone. You ease the handbill out from the curl of iron. It comes easily. It does not want to be where it is. Somebody put it there in a hurry, or in grief, or in the strange, small absent-mindedness of a person whose mind was elsewhere when their hand was working. It is damp. The corner you saw earlier is more than damp. It is beginning to wrinkle, the cream paper going a softer cream where the water has reached. The fold has been folded once. The paper is the kind used for cheap printing, the kind a small jobbing printer in a back street would have run off in the hundreds. There is a penciled price in the top corner, faint, 2D, written by the printer's hand, not the customer's. You stand. You step into the yellow circle of Albert Cribb's lamp. You unfold the paper. The hand is a woman's. You can tell before you read. Women in this century learn to write on slates with one kind of pressure, and men on slates with another, and the difference, once you have seen it, is hard to unsee. Hers is steady. It slopes a little to the right. She has not been writing long enough today to be tired, but she has been writing long enough in her life to have her own hand, a small, confident downstroke on the T's, a small, considered loop on the G's. She has used the printed body of the handbill, lost in tall capitals at the top, with a blank space beneath, to write only what she had to write.
Lost, a small black cat, wide at the throat and on 3 of his feet, answers to Tom. Last seen in the evening of Tuesday near the iron railings of St. Bride's churchyard. Reward for honest news. Apply at the chandler's shop, Salisbury Court, 1st floor. You read it once. You read it again, slower. The cat's name is Tom. The cat is small and black and has a white throat and white on 3 of his 4 feet.
The cat answers when called. He was last seen in the evening near the iron railings of a churchyard you walked past 20 minutes ago without knowing his story. The reward is for honest news, not for the cat returned, not for the cat alive, but for news. She would like simply to know. The address is the chandler's shop, first floor. You do not look up at the gold leak in the distance behind you. You do not need to. The hand and the window have, in the small private way of a city that occasionally speaks in a private voice, become the same fact. She has been writing these handbills all evening by the low lamp on her table. She has perhaps placed one at every lamp on every street between her shop and the churchyard. She has perhaps placed 40 of them. She has perhaps gone home at 10 and made herself a cup of tea and sat down at the table and started writing more because she has run out, and she does not know what else to do at midnight with the small fact of a cat she has not seen for 2 evenings now. Her hands are still moving. You did not know when you looked up at her what her hands were doing. You know now. You fold the handbill back the way it was folded, once, the same crease. You do not put it in your pocket. It is not yours. It was never yours. You crouch again. You ease the paper back into the iron curl at the base of Albert Cribb's lamp, in the exact place you found it, in the exact orientation it had. Somebody, not you, somebody she imagined, somebody she still imagines, somebody who comes past this lamp every morning at 5:30 on the way to work, is meant to find this. Somebody who knows the cat. Somebody who has seen a small black cat with a white throat by the iron railings of St. Bride's. Somebody who can give her honest news.
The somebody she is waiting for is not you. You only know the cat's name. You only know it is night. You only know there is a woman in a lit window who is still awake at 11:30, because the alternative is to be asleep and to dream that the cat came home and to wake at 3 and remember he did not. You straighten. You step back out of the yellow. You walk on. The fog has decided in the minutes you were crouching to thicken a little. The next lamp is harder to see than the last one was. The cold in your feet has spread to your ankles, the way cold does once it has been invited, and the inside of your sleeve, the wrist you noticed at the very start, has gone past damp into something almost wet. You do not mind. The night has come further into you. That is perhaps what the night is for. You pass another lamp. Its base, this close, has something tucked in its iron curl, too. Small, pale, folded. You do not stop. You have, by reading one of them, become responsible in a small way for not reading the others. The night puts the notices down. Some are read. Most are not. The arrangement holds because most go unread. You walk on. You carry the cat. You carry the woman. You carry Mayhew. You carry now the small new weight of a name, Tom, which you did not know an hour ago, and which you will not, you suspect, forget. The carrying does not hurt. It is only more present, more itself, more yours. The street ahead bends. The lamp ahead is one of the all-night ones. The yellow circle on the stone is waiting for you. You walk into it.
The fog has decided. It has decided in the way the fog of this city decides, without warning, without ceremony, by simply being more of itself than it was a moment ago. The lamp ahead of you was visible. Now it is a smudge. The lamp behind you was a coin on the stone. Now it is the rumor of a coin. The world has shrunk to the small, wet circle of the lamp you are walking inside,
and the small wet circle of the lamp you are walking toward, and the wet stone between them and your 2 feet, which you can hear better than you can see. You become aware, walking, that something has begun to keep time. You did not notice it begin, you only notice that it is happening. There is a pattern in the air around you, small, regular, made of 3 different sounds at 3 different distances, and the pattern has been there since you stepped past the chandler's window, perhaps earlier, perhaps since you first set foot on the cobble. You have only now slowed enough to hear it. The first of the 3 sounds comes from the south. You hear it before you understand it, a single iron stroke, then a pause, then a second stroke, then a longer pause. It is not, at first, a familiar bell. It is too low for a parish church, and too high for the great timekeepers of the river. It takes you 3 more strokes to place it. It is St. Bride's, the same St. Bride's whose iron churchyard railings hold the last known whereabouts of a small black cat named Tom. The bell rings the 3/4 hour. 3 small chimes for the 3/4, and then nothing, no hour stroke, because the hour stroke is still 15 minutes away. The sound travels through fog in a way it would not travel through clear air. It comes flatter, slower, with a soft tail of damp on the back of each chime. You can almost see it, the sound, the way a sound has a shape in fog that it does not have when the air is dry. You stop walking for a moment to listen. The fog presses your ears the way water presses your ears when you stand in a shallow pool. The 3rd chime fades. The street, the city, the river half a mile away, all of them wait for the bell, and the bell tells them where they are in the night, and then the bell is gone, and they go back to whatever quiet thing they were doing.
There will be one of these every 15 minutes, somewhere in the audible reach of where you are standing for the rest of the night. The bells overlap in this city, the way the calls of birds overlap in a wood, never quite together, never quite apart. Each one a small confirmation that another 15 minutes of dark has come and gone. You walk on. The second sound you carry with you. You do not at first realize you are carrying it. It is only your footsteps. Each step is a small contained sound, the soft scrape of leather on wet stone, the small heel knock at the back, the small toe press at the front. The 2 together make a sound the cobble has heard 1,000 times before, in 1,000 other pairs of boots, on 1,000 other foggy nights. There is a tempo to it. You did not set the tempo. The cobble set it. The cobble has been laid in a pattern, a slight curve to the road, a slight camber to either side, a slight unevenness at every joint, and a body walking on it settles, without thinking, into the pace the cobble prefers. You walk at the pace of the stone you are walking on. The stone walks you. You count your steps for a few seconds, the way a person counts their breath at the beginning of falling asleep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7th step lands on a wider stone, slightly raised, and your foot adjusts, a small unmeasured millimeter, and the 8th step is back inside the pattern. You stop counting. The counting was only to confirm what the body already knew. You walk by the light of just one lamp at a time. The 3rd sound comes from very far away. You hear it before you understand it, A single small clop, then a pause, then a single small clop, then another pause. It does not move, or it does not move toward you, or away from you, or in any direction you can locate. It is perhaps 3 streets distant, perhaps 4. It is a hansom waiting at a rank. The driver's name, if you knew it, is Garrick, 61, on the box of the same hansom for 19 years, in the same rank, outside the same closed hotel, on the same corner, since 10:30. He is not asleep. He is also not awake. He has, in 19 years of nights, learned the small craft of being neither. His horse is 15, a chestnut mare with a sore foreleg she has favored since the spring, and the small irregular clop you can hear is the mare shifting her weight off the sore foreleg and on to the sound one, then back, then off, then back. Garrick does not check her. He knows what the shifting is. He has known what the shifting is for 19 years. He sits on his perch under his oilskin, and he lets the mare keep her own small tempo, the way she lets him keep his. The clop is the 3rd small sound. It will go on, that small irregular punctuation, for as long as Garrick waits. The bell rings the quarter hours. Your boots keep the cobble's tempo. The mare, in a street you will not enter, taps the cobble of her rank with the small, slow shifting of a body that knows how to stand and wait. 3 sounds, 3 tempos. They are not the same tempo. They do not have to be. They are, between them, the way the night keeps time. The day, you think, and only think because it is too late in the night to say it, is the loudest thing this city has ever made. The night is what is left when those layers have been put down. Not silence, only the quietest the city has been for 16 hours, and the quietest it will be for another 5. This is kept by people who have, all of them, learned to do their work without raising their voices. Albert Cribb does not slam his ladder against the iron. Mr. Pettifer does not shout his half-hour. The boy does not let his coals clatter. Garrick does not jingle his harness. They are not being quiet for one another. They are being quiet because the night has asked it of them, and they have, decades ago, said yes. This is why the city does not sound asleep. Asleep is a thing that hides. The quiet hour only modulates. The lamp ahead of you finds you. You walk into the yellow. You step out the other side.
The cold has now reached your knees. You did not know cold could climb, but it can, slowly, in damp linen, through the small spaces between cloth and skin where the warmth has gone. You do not mind. You are not, you realize, walking to be warm. You are walking to be inside this. The lamp above you is one of the all-night ones. It will burn for another 4 hours, perhaps 5, until the first gray of the morning lets the parish put it out. The oil in its small reservoir is the oil the Gas, Light and Coke Company laid in this afternoon. The mantle is the mantle Albert Cribb replaced last week. The flame inside is the same kind of flame that has been burning in iron columns very like this one, on streets very like this one, since the first gas lamps came to London in 1807. The lamp does not know it is keeping you company. The lamp is only doing what it was built to do. But it is keeping you company. You walk by the light of just one lamp at a time. The fog moves. The next lamp finds you. Garrick's mare somewhere taps once. The bell in 15 minutes will go again. Your boots keep their tempo on the stone. Tired, awake, alive. You walk on.
A door closes very far away. You hear it
Before you understand it is a door. A small, contained sound, wood meeting wood, a soft thunk with no ring to it, the kind of sound a heavy door makes when somebody is closing it carefully because somebody else is asleep. 2 streets away, perhaps 3. By the time your ear has decided what it was, the sound is already gone, and the fog has eaten the small space it left behind. It is the first sound in 20 minutes of walking that you cannot place. The bell was St. Bride's. Your boots were your boots. The hoof was Garrick's mare. The new sound has no name and no figure attached to it. It belongs to somebody you will never meet, doing something you will never know, in a house you will never enter. The night, you understand, is full of these. They are the small private soundtrack of the city that is supposed to be asleep and is not. You walk on slowly. The cobble takes your tempo, or you take its, depending on which way you have decided to think about it tonight. The lamp ahead of you finds you. You step into the yellow. The cold has reached your hips now, in the small way cold travels through a damp coat. Not unkindly, only steadily, the way the night does most things. The city around you, by every official count, is asleep. That is what the records say. The watchman's reports for these hours show, almost without exception, that nothing has happened. The constable's beat books, kept in their tight clerk's hand, record the half-hour intervals with the same 3 words: all is well, all is well, all is well, repeated down the page like a small prayer the constable has been paid to say. The newspapers, in their morning editions, will describe last night, when they describe it at all, as quiet. The clergy preach on Sundays about the gift of the night. The poets, those who write about cities, write about the city's slumber as if the city were a single great body, breathing in unison, drawing in the dark. You walk for a moment with that thought.
The census, in its small, careful way, does not know about this hour. The census was taken in March on a Sunday at midnight, and the census takers who came to the door with their printed forms and their slow, patient pencils did not stay until 1. They wrote down the names of the people who were in the house at midnight, and the ages of the people, and the occupations of the people, and the relationships between the people, and they did not write down what any of those people would be doing at 3:30. They did not ask. They were not paid to ask. The shop ledgers do not know about this hour either. The shop ledgers of this parish were closed at 6:30 with the last transaction of the day, a 1/4 pound of tea, a candle, a small loaf, 3 farthings of milk, entered in the steady afternoon hand of the shopkeeper, and the next entry will be made at 6:30 tomorrow morning, in the same hand, only a little stiffer, a little slower, because the shopkeeper has slept and the hand has gone cold in the night. The hours between the last entry and the next entry are, in the small printed columns of the ledger, a blank line. The ledger does not know that the woman above the chandler's shop has spent those hours writing handbills. The ledger has no column for handbills. The parish registers do not know about this hour. The parish registers know about the births and the marriages and the deaths. They know in their large bound volumes the names of those who arrived in this parish and departed it in the day language of arriving and departing. But the parish registers do not know about the lamplighter's small leather kit, or the watchman's call, or the cab horse who has been awake too long, or the woman you are walking past now who has been awake too long for a reason the parish register does not have a column for.
The historians who will, 150 years from now, sit in archive reading rooms and look for the 4 hours between midnight and 4 will not find them. They will find what was written down, and what was written down was written down during the day, by the day, for the day. They will find the police blotter, which records only what went wrong. They will find Mayhew's interviews, which are an exception, and which catch only the small handful of night workers he asked. They will find what was sold, and what was bought, and what was buried.
They will not find the lamplighter's quiet round. They will not find the constable's half-inch lantern slot. They will not find the woman above the chandler's writing. The 4 hours are not gone exactly. The 4 hours have only never been written down. The body that has walked through them is the only record they have. You walk past a doorway. You almost do not see him. The doorway is set back from the pavement by perhaps 2 feet, recessed under a small stone porch above the door of what was once, you think, a printer's office, now closed. The recess is dark even by the standards of this fog, but there is a small movement inside the dark, a small, slow breath, and as your eye adjusts, the doorway gives him up. He is perhaps 10 years old. He is asleep, sitting up, his back against the cold stone of the doorway, his knees drawn up to his chest, his head fallen forward against his knees. He is wearing the trade. You can tell from the shape of him, even before you can tell from anything else. The small folded body, the dark cloth, the bundle by his feet that is not in fact a bundle, but the rolled coil of his brushes and his short rod and his cap. He is a sweep boy. Tomorrow morning at 5, perhaps 1:30, a master sweep will come down this street and will find him and will wake him with one nudge of a boot, and the 2 of them will go to the first chimney of the day. Until then, the doorway is his bed. You stop. You do not stop for long. You only stop long enough to know that he is breathing, small, even, deep breaths, the kind of breathing only a tired child can do, and that the cold has not yet reached the part of him that would wake him. He will be cold by 4. By 4:30, he will be shivering. By 5, the master will come. For now, he sleeps. Inside the great paradox of the city sleeping and not sleeping, here is a smaller paradox you had not expected, a child asleep in a doorway in the middle of the city that is also not asleep. The city is full of these small contradictions, and the small contradictions taken together are how the city keeps the bigger one going. You walk on. The city is not asleep. The city is doing something else. The closest word, you decide, is the word sleeps, used the way a sea is said to sleep. A sea, on a calm night, is called sleeping by sailors and by poets, and both of them know, without ever needing to say so, that the sea is not asleep at all. The sea is only doing the smallest thing a sea can do without being something else. It is moving. It is breathing. It is keeping its tide. It is holding its fish. It is making, all the while, the small, constant sound that sleeping seas make, which is the sound of being a sea at a lower volume. The city is the sea on a calm night. It is doing the smallest thing it can do without being something else. It is keeping its lamps. It is calling its half-hours. It is baking the first loaves. It is shifting the weight of a tired mare from one sore foreleg to another. It is writing the handbills for a missing cat. It is closing a door carefully so as not to wake the person upstairs.
it is letting a sweep boy sleep in a doorway until 5. It is doing between midnight and 4 all of the small things the day is too loud to notice itself doing. The city sleeps. The city does not. You walk on. The fog thins briefly, and you can see further than you could a minute ago. 2 lamps ahead. 3, perhaps. You can see the shape of a railing on the opposite side of the street where a small front area drops down to a basement door. And you can see, you think, the faint white shape of something on a low wall. A sleeping cat, or a bundle of rag, or a trick of the fog deciding what it would like you to think it is showing you. You decide not to decide. You walk on. The fog thickens again. The wall and the white shape are gone. You think of the boy in the doorway. You did not have to invent him. He was there. The fog only had to thin enough for you to see him. The bell will go again in 7 minutes, perhaps 8. The mare, in her unseen rank, taps. Somewhere a door closes again, perhaps the same door, perhaps another. The city continues to sleep and to not sleep in the small, simultaneous way only this hour allows. The strange thing about a paradox, you find yourself thinking, is not that it is contradictory. The strange thing is that it is, when you are inside it, perfectly ordinary. The city sleeping and not sleeping is not, from inside it, 2 things at once. It is one thing. The only reason it sounds like a paradox is that the language we have for cities was built by people who were not awake to watch one happen. You let that stand. You do not finish it. You are not, you remember, walking to finish thoughts. The lamp ahead finds you. You walk into it. The fog moves. The bell will go in 6 minutes. The mare, in her unseen rank, taps. Somewhere a door closes again. Perhaps the same door, perhaps another. The city sleeps. The city does not. You walk on.
The smell of cold iron. You did not expect it. It comes off the railing as you pass. A small iron fence that runs along the front of a closed terrace of houses. The kind of railing a child runs a stick along on a summer afternoon. The kind of railing that in winter takes on the smell of the weather it has been holding. Cold iron has a smell. Most people do not know this because most people do not walk close enough to railings in fog at midnight to learn it. It is a small mineral smell, faintly metallic at the front, faintly damp at the back, with something underneath that is almost the smell of blood and is not. It is the smell of a thing that has been outdoors for 100 years and has done nothing in those 100 years but be outdoors. You walk past the railing. The smell stays with you for 3 steps, 4. By the 5th step, it is gone. But the railing has done a thing to you that the railing did not know it was doing. A year ago, almost to the night, perhaps a little less, perhaps a little more, you have stopped counting. You walked past a railing exactly like this one for the first time on a street that was not this street, but on a night that was very nearly this night. The smell of cold iron is the smell that brought back, for the first time in a year, the body you were when you did not yet know what you were doing out here. You walk on. You let the memory come. You are walking then on a different street. It is your first night in the small hours of this city. You are perhaps 3 years younger.
You are not yet wearing the wool coat you are wearing now. You are wearing a thinner coat, a coat that belonged to somebody else first, a coat the wind goes through in a way you did not know wind could go through cloth. You have not yet learned with your boots the trick of walking by the cobble's tempo. Your boots are too new for it. They are loud. They scrape. They do not lie down on the stone the way your boots tonight lie down on the stone. They strike. The street hears you coming.
You have, that first night, a destination. A destination is the first sign you do not yet belong here. The walkers who outlast the night do not, as a rule, have destinations. They have routes, they have rounds, they have ranks. They have the place they are going at midnight, and the place they are going at 1, and the place they are going at 3:15, all known to them in advance, all written into the body. A destination is something day people carry. It is a small, bright, fixed point that they walk toward in straight lines, because the day rewards straight lines. The night does not reward them. The night only lets them pass. You are walking, that first night, to a lodging house on the south side of Doughty Street. You have the address on a folded piece of paper inside your coat. You take the paper out once under a lamp to check it. The lamp's yellow finds the paper. The hand is your own. The address is correct. You have copied it twice already to make certain. Mrs. Thrale, ground floor back, midnight, ring twice. You put the paper back. You walk on. The lodging house belongs to Mrs. Thrale. She is 55 years old. She has run the house since her husband died in the cholera summer of 1866, and she has, in the 30 years since, taken in a particular kind of lodger, the night tradesmen, the printers-compositors who finish at 1 in the morning, the cabmen between their stands, the very few unmarried women on the rare clerical positions that involve being awake at hours the rest of London is not. She charges what they can pay. She asks no questions about why they keep the hours they keep. She has, on a small brass plate by her front door, only her name and the words "Lodgings for the Night Trades." The plate is, you will later learn, the only one of its kind in the parish. You do not know any of this on the night you are walking to her door. You only know the address. You find the street. You find the number. You stand at the bottom of the area steps and look up. The lamp opposite is one of the all-night ones, and it puts a small yellow light on the brass plate, and you can read her name. You ring the bell twice, as the paper says. You wait. You hear, after perhaps half a minute, a slow, careful footstep in the hall. The door opens. She is short. She is in a gray wool dressing gown over a long nightdress with a shawl over her shoulders. Her gray hair is loosely pinned. She holds a small brass candlestick in her left hand and the door in her right. The candle has been recently trimmed. She looks at you for 1 second, perhaps 2, and you understand, only in that look, and only because she has looked at that look 1,000 times before, that she is not seeing you. She is seeing the category of person you belong to. New one, first night, out of the cold. The look is not unkind. It is only the small, experienced look of a woman who has watched first-night walkers stand on her area step for 30 years and has long since stopped needing to learn anything from them in the first minute. She steps back. She holds the door wider. She says one sentence in a voice that is older than her face. "Come in out of it, then." You come in. The hall is dark except for her candle. It smells of beeswax and of paper and of a very faint coal fire banked somewhere down a corridor.
She closes the door behind you, slowly so the latch does not click. She turns. She walks ahead of you, the candlestick at her hip, the shawl trailing slightly. She does not look back to see if you are following. She knows you are following. Where else, at this hour, could you go? She takes you to a small room at the back of the ground floor. The room is no larger than a butler's pantry. There is an iron bedstead with a clean blanket at its foot. There is a washstand with a basin and a small jug. There is a single chair. There is a window that opens onto a small black yard. The fire grate is empty. The room is cold, but it is not the cold of the street. It is the cold of a room that has been waiting for somebody and is about to stop being cold. She sets the candle on the washstand. She says in the same voice, "The fire's laid. Light it when you can manage. Breakfast is at 6 in the kitchen, if you can manage that too. If not, there is bread in the bin and a kettle on the hob. Mind the latch on the back door. It catches."
She does not say good night. She does not say her own name. She does not ask yours. She goes out. She pulls the door to behind her, slowly, without letting the latch click. You stand for a long time in the small, cold room. You do not light the fire yet. You take off the thinner coat. You sit on the edge of the iron bedstead. You put your hands on your knees. You feel the smell of cold iron leave the cloth of the coat and settle instead into the cloth of the blanket. You feel, after a while, that your boots have stopped striking, that they are finally at rest on a floor that does not require them to be quiet, because the house is already quiet, because the house has been quiet for 100 years, because the house was built for people who keep the hours you have just begun to keep. You are inside now. The night has let you pass. You are out of the menagerie. You are back in your wool coat. You are back in the boots that have learned the cobble. You are back in the body that does not need a destination tonight, because the route in a year has taught itself to you. You walk by the light of just one lamp at a time. The fog moves. The yellow finds you. You step into it. You step out of it. Mrs. Thrale is still in her ground floor back room, 3 streets and 1 parish away from where you are walking now. She is asleep, you think. She would be by midnight on a Tuesday. Her brass plate is still on the door. The room with the iron bedstead has, since you, taken in perhaps 30 other first-night walkers, each of whom has, in their own way, stopped striking the stone and started lying down on it. The lodging house keeps going. The city keeps going. The night keeps letting people pass. You are not, you understand, the same walker you were a year ago. You have lost the thinner coat. You have lost the address. You have lost the folded paper. You have lost the destination. You have lost even the question the night asks of new walkers, because the night, after a year, has stopped asking it of you. You belong here now, not in the way Albert Cribb belongs with his father's pole, not in the way Mr. Pettifer belongs with his audible blanket, not in the way Jem belongs with his flour sack bed, not in the way Garrick belongs with his mare. You belong in the smaller way of a walker who has, slowly, by simply walking, become one of the people the night lets pass. That is enough. That has, for tonight, always been enough. You walk on. The cold iron railing falls behind you. The smell of it stays for 3 steps, 4. By the 5th step, it is gone. The next lamp finds you.
The light changes. It does not change in the way light changes when the fog lifts, or when a lamp is closer, or when the moon has slipped its cloud.
It changes in the way a remembered light changes, the small adjustment your eye makes without permission when a smell or a sound or a temperature has reached back into a year you had stopped visiting. The London fog is still London fog. The lamps are still gas, but somewhere behind your eyes, very faintly, you can see for a moment the slope of a different street, a paler street, narrower, with smaller stones and an older smell. And you understand that the night, having taken you back 1 year in the chapter just past, would like to take you back further. You let it. You walk on, slowly, in your London boots, but the body inside the boots is, for the next quarter of an hour, a younger body, in a smaller town, on a hill that does not exist in this city. You are walking, then, down College Street in Winchester. You are perhaps 16 years old. You are perhaps 17. It is hard in memory to be exact, because the body does not keep years. The body keeps temperatures and weights of cloth and the slopes of streets it has walked many times. The slope of College Street, you remember, goes downhill toward the cathedral. The stones are smaller than London cobbles. They are flint and chalk in roughly equal measure, and they shine in the wet where London only darkens. The smell is not London's coal smell. It is the colder, cleaner smell of a river that has not yet been used by 4 million people, and of grass, and of old stone walls that have stood since the 12th century, and of wood smoke from chimneys that are not, like London's chimneys, all burning at once. It is 11:30 at night. You are walking home. Home is a small house on the south side of the close, behind the cathedral, where your father is one of the senior chorister's tutors, and has been for 26 years. The house comes with the post. The house is older than the post. The house has thick walls and small windows and a great kitchen flagstone that is so cold in February that you have learned in winter to walk around it in your stocking feet.
Your father is Edmund. He is, on this night, 52 years old. He is a quiet man. He has the kind of quietness that does not come from having little to say, but from having spent 26 years teaching 12-year-old boys to sing the Psalms in 2-part harmony, and from having learned, in that time, that almost nothing he could say out loud would land as well as the silences he had been trained to keep. He plays the small organ in the side chapel on Wednesday evenings. He eats his supper at 7. He reads after supper until 9. He goes to bed at 10:30 because the boys must be in chapel by 7:15, and the choir master must be there before the boys. You are, you understand, now, only now, walking College Street in memory, and London cobble, in fact, the reason you became a person who walks at this hour. You were not, at first, walking by choice. The walking began because your mother had been ill for 2 years, with a slow, careful illness the family doctor never named in front of you, and because Edmund, in the second of those 2 years, had begun to sit up with her at night. He sat in the small armchair in the corner of her room. He kept a low lamp on the dressing table. He read, very quietly, from a small book of devotions, or from his Latin grammar, or from the Hampshire Chronicle, if it had come that week. He did not sleep until she did. He did not sleep when she woke. He slept when he slept in the chair, with his head fallen forward against his collar. You did not understand, at first, that what your father was doing had a name. It is the kind of thing that does not, in Winchester in those years, have a name. There is no word in your father's vocabulary for what he is doing. There is only the small, unspoken arrangement of a household in which the wife is ill, the husband sits up, and the 17-year-old child, meaning you, is expected to keep out of the way, to do their schoolwork, to attend chapel, and to not, on any account, ask too many questions about what the night looks like from the corner of the small armchair. But you wanted to know what it looked like.
You wanted to know why your father, in the morning, came down to breakfast with a particular kind of softness around his eyes. Not sleeplessness, not exactly, but a softness, a quality of having spent the night next to a person he loved, doing the only thing the night allowed him to do for her, which was to sit up and read very quietly until she slept. So you began to walk. You did not tell him. You went up to bed at 10. You waited until you heard the small click of his footstep on the landing as he carried the low lamp into your mother's room. You waited another quarter of an hour. Then you got up, dressed quietly, took your finner coat off the peg, and let yourself out the back door, which closed without clicking because Edmund had, years before, oiled the latch. You walked down College Street to the cathedral. You walked around the cathedral, in the close, under the great elms. You walked past the small lamp by the deanery gate, which the verger lit every evening, and which burned in those years on whale oil, not gas. You walked the length of the long wall by the meadow. You walked sometimes as far as the river, and stood for a moment on the small bridge, and listened to the water, which had a sound at midnight that it did not have at any other hour. You did not understand at the time why you were walking. You only knew that the body inside the thinner coat felt, after an hour outdoors, the same softness around the eyes that your father's body had at breakfast. You had borrowed his quietness by walking, the way a child sometimes borrows a parent's coat, too large for you, but warm because it has been worn by them. You walked in Winchester for 1 year. Your mother died in April of that year. Your father stopped sitting up. You stopped walking. You did not begin walking again until 2 years later you came to London and found yourself one night on a street near Doughty Street with a folded paper in your pocket and the address of Mrs. Thrale's lodging house written on it in your own hand.
Years later, in a small, worn copy of Mayhew's London Labour you found on a barrow in Farringdon Road for 6pence, you read his pages on the watercress girls, the small girls, some not yet 8 years old, who left their lodgings at 4 in the morning to fetch their cresses from the Farringdon market, and who walked alone in the dark, with a wicker basket too big for them, for miles. One of them tells him in his pages that she has been doing it since she was 7 and is now 11. Another tells him she does not mind the cold. Another tells him she cannot remember what she used to do before she did this. You read those pages on a bench in the small park behind Gray's Inn. You read them slowly. You did not finish them. You closed the book and walked home. You did not invoke the sentence aloud, then or now. The night does not need to be told what it is. You knew, sitting on the bench with the small, worn book closed in your lap, that there is a particular kind of walker the night raises, the kind whose first night walks are not chosen, but inherited, not work, but accompaniment, not yet a trade, but already a habit, and that you, in your year of walking the cathedral close, had been one of them, though you had not known it then, and would not have used the word for it if you had. You are out of the memory. The London fog is back. The London lamps are back. The London cobble is back under your London boots. The cold has reached your hips, exactly where it had reached your hips before the smell of cold iron took you to College Street. Your body has done the small, generous thing memory occasionally does for the body. It has let you visit Winchester without leaving the walk. Edmund died in the end 4 years ago.
He died in the same small house behind the cathedral, in the same bedroom where your mother had died, and you were there, and you held his hand. You sat up with him the night after, in the small armchair in the corner, with the low lamp on the dressing table, and his Latin grammar open on your lap, because the Latin grammar was the book by his hand, and because you had learned by then that the night is sat up in. The next lamp finds you. The bell somewhere will go in 3 minutes, perhaps 4. You walk on.
The fog thins. It does not lift. Nothing in this hour lifts. But the fog thins. In the small, considered way the fog of this city occasionally thins between 3 and 4. Not to clear the air, only to remind you that there is air to clear. And for the first time in perhaps 40 minutes, you can see further than 2 lamps ahead. You can see, in fact, 4. You can see the small bend of the street where it doubles back on itself toward the triangular junction. You can see, just at the edge of where the eye decides to stop trying, the same small gold leak you saw an hour and a half ago, very faintly, very far. You did not, when you walked away from Albert Cribb's lamp with the handbill folded back into its iron curl, expect the route to return you here. You were not, in fact, walking back. You were only walking. The streets of this parish, you have learned over a year, fold themselves into small, unhurried loops without your permission, and a walker who has stopped requiring a destination becomes, in time, a person the streets bring back to where they need to be. The streets, tonight, have brought you back. You walk on, slowly. The cold has reached your chest now. You do not mind. The wool coat is doing its work in the slow, patient way wool does, holding its own warmth in the weave, holding the smell of London fog in the outer fibers, holding, somewhere in the lining, the warmth of the body that has been inside it for 2 hours. The gold leak grows. It is, you realize as you come closer, still in exactly the place it was when you first saw it from across the triangular junction. The same window, the same first floor of the chandler's shop on Salisbury Court, the same small, unbroken seam of gold along the bottom edge of a curtain that has been carelessly drawn, except that carelessly is, you understand now, the wrong word. The curtain has been drawn by somebody who is not paying attention to the curtain. The curtain is the smallest of her concerns tonight. You stop at the corner of the triangular junction. You do not cross. The covenant of the late walker, never named, only kept, holds here as it has held everywhere else tonight. You do not stand directly under her window. You do not look up at her from the pavement. You only stop at the corner, in the shadow between 2 lamps, where the geometry of the street puts her window at your shoulder, not at your forehead, and you let yourself, for one quiet moment, be in the small distance from her that the night allows. She is still awake. The gold seam tells you so. It has not moved. It has not dimmed. It has not, in the hour and a half since you first saw it, gone out. Whatever she is doing behind the curtain, she has not yet stopped doing it. You know what she is doing. You read it an hour ago in your own hands by the yellow of Albert Cribb's lamp, in a hand that sloped a little to the right. A small black cat, white at the throat and on 3 of his feet, answers to Tom. Last seen on the evening of Tuesday near the iron railings of St. Bride's churchyard. Reward for honest news. Apply at the chandler's shop, Salisbury Court, 1st floor. The address is the 1st floor. The seam of gold is the 1st floor. The hand was a woman's. The hand was steady.
You know what she is doing because the handbill at the base of Albert Cribb's lamp was not the only one. You walked past another at the next lamp without stopping. There were others you did not see. There are by now perhaps 100 of them on every iron base and every railing within a quarter of a mile, and the 100 handbills have, between them, used up the small stack she had this morning, and then the small stack she went down to her back kitchen for at 9, and then the small stack the printer delivered yesterday afternoon. Somewhere behind the seam of gold she is writing more. She is not writing more because another handbill will bring the cat home. She has placed 100. She knows what 100 has done, which is nothing. She is writing more for the same reason your father in Winchester read his Latin grammar in the small armchair in the corner of your mother's room, because writing them is the only thing the night allows her to do for him, and the alternative is to put down the pen and to put out the lamp and to lie in the dark above her shop and to do nothing. The night does not require her to do nothing. The night, in its small mercy, has handed her a pen and a stack of cheap printed handbills and a low lamp and 4 hours of unaccounted time, and has said, without words, in the only way the night says anything, "Here, use these until morning."
She is using them. From today's view, you think this looks like a woman wasting her ink on a cat. From hers, it is the only act of love still available to her tonight. And that, you understand, standing in the shadow between 2 lamps with the doled seam at your shoulder, is what's so chilling. It is chilling because there is no day language for it. The day will, in the morning, see the handbills at the bases of the lamps, and the day will say, kindly perhaps, but lightly, somebody has lost a cat. The day will not see what was sat up with in the small room above the chandlers between midnight and 4. The day does not have the patience for that sentence. The day moves on. The handbills are taken down by the parish boys by Friday, and the printer's cream-colored paper goes for kindling, and the cat does not come home, and the woman in time stops writing, and the night in time takes her vigil from her and gives it to somebody else. The chilling thing is not the loss. The chilling thing is how thoroughly the day will fail to see in the morning what the night saw all the way through. You stand for another minute. You do not move. The gold seam stays at your shoulder. The fog, in the small considered way it does most things tonight, begins to thicken again, and the 4 lamps you could see a minute ago shrink back to 2.
You do not look up at her window. You do not need to. You take one small step back, deeper into the shadow. The wool coat takes the step with you. The cold which had reached your chest takes the step with you. The hour, which is now somewhere past 3, takes the step with you. The bell, somewhere very near now, rings the half-hour, a single long stroke, not 3, because the half-hour has only 1, and the sound passes over the chandler's shop, and over the corner of the triangular junction, and over the shoulder of the wool coat, and out into the streets of the parish beyond, where it finds, perhaps, the last of the handbills she placed before midnight, and the iron railings of St. Bride's, and the lamps that have been burning since before she was born. Somewhere far, Garrick's mare taps once. Somewhere nearer, a door, not the same door, perhaps the same door, closes carefully. The gold seam holds. You take one more step, then another. Then the cobble, in its small, patient way, takes the tempo from you again, and you are walking, and the corner of the triangular junction is behind you, and the seam of gold is behind you, and the woman behind the curtain is behind you, and the night, which has held her for 3 hours now, and will hold her for 2 more, keeps her. You walk on, tired, awake, alive. You walk by the light of just one lamp at a time.
The wind drops. It does not stop. The wind of this city at this hour does not stop until perhaps 5:30, when the river slackens and the day's first carts begin to break the air in their own small way. But it drops by perhaps a quarter, perhaps a third, and the small change is felt first at the back of your neck, where the wool collar of the coat has been doing its slow, patient work against a wind it can no longer feel. The collar relaxes, the skin under it relaxes. You walk 3 steps before you understand what has happened, and then you understand. The wind has, for the next hour or so, decided to be smaller. The night, in its way, has begun the small turning toward morning. It is not yet morning. Morning is still perhaps an hour and 20 minutes away, perhaps an hour and a half, perhaps a little more, depending on the cloud and the river and the small unmeasurable shift in the air that the body learns, after a year of walking, to know without the help of a clock. But the night has begun the turn. The wind drops. The fog somewhere thins. The cold reaches a place in the coat that it has reached an hour ago and stops reaching further. You walk on. And in the small turning, in the hour and 20 minutes between the wind dropping and the morning arriving, the night does for those who are still awake to receive them 3 small mercies. You will be given all 3 before you stop walking. The first mercy. You walk past the back of the bakery. You did not plan to. The route, in its quiet, folding way, has brought you to a small mews behind Fetter Lane, narrow, cobbled with a different stone than the streets you have been walking, paler, older. The bakery's back kitchen door, you remember now, opens to this mews. You had forgotten. The route remembered for you. The door is open. It is not open wide. It is open the small, generous distance a back kitchen door is opened on a winter night, when the inside has become too warm for the work being done inside it, and a little of the warm air needs to be let out before the bread spoils for too much heat. The distance is perhaps 4 inches. The warm air comes out in a slow, steady column you can see, faintly, against the cold, a small breathing strip of paler air where the kitchen meets the mews. You did not know, a year ago, that warm air had a shape against cold air. You know it now. You slow your step. You do not stop. The covenant of the late walker holds here as everywhere. You do not stand at strangers' doors. But you slow, the way a body slows on a winter pavement when it passes a warm window, not by choice, but because the body itself adjusts its tempo to the small generosity it has been offered. You are perhaps 3 paces past the door when the voice comes. "There's coffee in the pot if you want a half cup. I won't tell." The voice belongs to a woman at the range. You do not know her name. You know only what the doorway shows you. A woman with her sleeves pushed to her elbows, her right thumb white with a small flower print, where she has, in the last half hour, touched herself without knowing. She is pulling a tray of small loaves out with a long-handled wooden peel, and her face is in the orange light of the oven, and she does not look up. You turn.
You take 3 paces back. You stand at the small open distance of the kitchen door, not crossing the threshold, only standing where the warm column meets the cold mews. She nods, without looking, toward a tin cup on the side of the range. You take it. You hold it in your gloved hands. The coffee is bitter and a little burned and very hot, and the heat goes into your gloves, and then into your palms, and then up the inside of your arms, and finds somewhere in the center of your chest the cold the wool coat could not reach. You drink the half cup, standing in the small open distance. You do not speak. She does not speak. The tray of small loaves goes on to the cooling rack with a soft wooden sound. You set the tin cup back on the range. You nod once. She, without looking up, nods back. You walk on. The warm column closes behind you. The cold reclaims your neck. The cold cannot, however, reclaim the place in the center of your chest, which the coffee has warmed, and which will, by the body's small mathematics, stay warm for the next quarter of an hour. The first mercy was half a cup of bitter coffee from a tin cup at a back kitchen door in a mews you did not know the route was going to take you to.
The second mercy. The constable finds you. You did not realize until he steps out of the shadow at the corner of Plough Court that you had been watched. Constables in this parish do not, as a rule, watch the late walkers. The walkers do not give them reasons. The walkers do their walking, and the constables do their beat, and the two professions cross paths at perhaps 8 points across the 4 hours, and exchange, at each crossing, a small nod that says, "All is well, all is well." But this one has stopped. He is standing at the corner. His lantern is at his hip, shuttered down to a thin yellow slot. His coat is buttoned. His helmet is correctly pinned. You slow. You do not stop. You walk to within the small, respectful distance at which a walker speaks to a constable, and you say, quietly, "Evening." He says, just as quietly, "Morning, near enough." He looks at you for a small, careful second. Then he says, in the same quiet voice, "The handbills on Salisbury Court, the cat. I've moved 3 of them to the shelter of the iron, where the rain won't catch them." You do not speak. There is nothing to say. He has not told you so that you will thank him. He has told you you understand without being told, so that somebody else who walks this hour now knows, and the knowing will outlast both of you on the corner of Plough Court. He nods. You nod. He turns, lifts the shutter on his lantern half an inch, only half an inch, the smallest allowable opening, and walks on toward Fleet Street, and the thin yellow slot at his hip goes with him. You stand for a moment at the corner. The woman above the chandler's shop will not know in the morning what her handbills look like under the iron curls of the lamps. She will not know who moved them. She will not know that anybody did. The constable will not tell her. You will not tell her. You walk on. The second mercy was 3 handbills moved by an unfamiliar hand into the shelter where the rain will not find them. The third mercy. He is standing by his cart at the end of the next street. He is the night soil man. His cart is a small, dark wagon drawn by a small, dark horse, and he is at this hour, perhaps, 3 streets into a route that will take him another 2 hours to finish. He is one of the very few in this parish who keeps his face turned away when he passes a late walker, not from unfriendliness, but from the small private dignity of his trade, which the day people do not have language for, and the night people understand without needing one. He has stopped his cart. He is bending, slowly, at the base of a gas lamp. You see, as you come closer, what he is doing. A small dark shape on the cobble has caught his eye. He has, you think at first, found something in the gutter. A rag, a glove, the kind of small lost object the gutters of this hour collect. But as you come within 10 paces, you see that the small dark shape is not in the gutter. It is at the base of the lamp, half under the iron curl, where the autumn before last and the autumn before that have laid down their dropped leaves, and where the rain has, in its slow, patient way, begun softening them back into the stone. He has bent to pick up a plane tree leaf. It is the same kind of leaf you saw at the base of Albert Cribb's lamp 3 hours ago. The same paler underside, the same slow decomposing veins, the same small dampness that smells faintly of last year and of the year before. He is not, you realize, picking it up to throw it away. He is picking it up to look at it. He holds it for a moment in his glove. He turns it. He looks at the paler underside. He puts it carefully, the way he does most things, back where it was, half under the iron curl, and he straightens, and he sees you. He does not turn his face away this time. He does not quite smile. He only sees you, and you see him, and the small, careful thing he has just done is between you for 1 second on a cobbled street under a gas lamp. Then he turns to his cart, takes up the reins, clicks his tongue once at his small, dark horse, and the cart moves on. The lamp's yellow finds his back for a moment. The fog takes him. The small, irregular hoof-fall of the horse goes another 50 paces, then turns the corner, then is gone. You stand by the lamp. The plane tree leaf is back where it was. The same leaf, perhaps. A different one, perhaps. The night does not require you to know which. The third mercy was a man whose name you will never know, who picked up a leaf and put it back. The wind has not risen again. The fog has not thickened. The cold has not, in the quarter of an hour since the bakery, reached any new place in the coat. You walk on, tired, awake, alive. The dark thins. It does not lift. Nothing in this hour lifts, even now. But the dark thins. In the small, slow way the dark of this city thins between 4:30 and 5. By a half shade, then another half shade, then a third. And you do not, at first, understand that it is thinning. You only understand that the lamps are not quite doing all the work they were doing an hour ago. The lamps are sharing their work with something else now. The something else is the sky. You walk on. The cold has stopped reaching new places in the coat. The cold has, in fact, in the last quarter of an hour, begun the small reverse turning the cold makes at the very end of a long night. Not warming, exactly, but stopping its progress, the way a tide stops before it turns. The wool of your coat, somewhere in the inner lining, has held enough of your own warmth to begin meeting the cold halfway. You walk 3 paces, 4. You notice that you can feel the muscles of your own legs again slightly, where you had stopped feeling them an hour and a half ago. The body, like the sky, has begun to lighten. You walk on by the small gray of the half-shade that is not yet morning. You come to the railings at the corner of Bouverie Street. You did not plan to. The route in its quiet folding way has brought you here. The railings run the length of a small front garden belonging to a house you have walked past in this last year, perhaps 300 times, at midnight, at 1, at 2:30, at 3, at every quiet hour the route has offered. And you have never, in those 300 passings, seen the railings the way you see them now. The wisteria is on them. It is the wisteria of an old London garden, planted long before the house was built around it, trained along the iron of the railings for half a century at least, thickening at the base into a small, twisted trunk that is by now more iron than the iron. It is not in bloom. The wisteria does not bloom for another month, perhaps two. Tonight, it is only the bare gray woven shape of itself along the railings. The long woody runners, the small remembered curls, the seed pods from last summer's bloom still hanging in their dry, papery brown. You stop. You have walked past this wisteria 300 times in the dark, and you have never seen it. The fog and the gas lamps and the cold and the hour have, every other time, kept the wisteria invisible, kept it the same gray as the railings, the same gray as the wall behind them, the same gray as everything in this city between midnight and 4. But the half-shade of morning has, in the last 10 minutes, done what no lamp this night could do. It has lifted the wisteria one half shade out of the gray of the railing, and the wisteria is, for the first time, visible. You stand at the railings. The seed pods are at the height of your hand. You do not touch them. You only stand for a moment and look at them, and understand that they have been here, bare in winter, bunched in late spring, heavy in summer, dropping in autumn, for as long as the house has stood, and that the small twisted trunk at the base of the railings was planted by a hand that has been gone, by now, for a long time. The hand that planted the wisteria did not plant it for you. The hand that planted it did not know that anybody would, on a gray morning at 4:30, stand at the railings and see it for the first time after walking past it 300 times in the dark. But here you are. And here is the wisteria. You walk on. The bakery's front window lights up. You feel it before you see it. The street ahead of you has been, for the last several minutes, the same gray as every other street, lit only by the lamp at its near end and the lamp at its far end, and the small thinning of the sky between them. Then the small bright shape of a window square appears, 20 paces ahead, on the left, and the gray of the cobble in front of the window goes for a small irregular patch of perhaps 6 feet, yellow. You know whose window it is. You walked past the back of this bakery an hour and 10 minutes ago. You stood at the small open door of its kitchen. You drank half a cup of bitter coffee from a tin cup on the side of the range. The hands that pulled the tray of small loaves from the oven an hour and 10 minutes ago are now, by the small, precise mathematics of bread, the hands that are setting those same loaves out in the front window, one by one, on the wooden shelf behind the glass, where the day will, in another hour, come to buy them.
You walk past the window slowly. The shelf is being filled from the inside. You can see, only just, through the small, steaming film on the inside of the glass, the same long-handled wooden peel, now used to slide the small loaves into their places on the shelf. You can see the same pushed-up sleeves. You can see the small flower print of the right thumb, brighter now in the yellow than it was in the orange of the oven. She does not look up at you. You do not look in at her. The covenant of the early morning walker is the same as the covenant of the late one. You do not stand at a stranger's window. You walk past. The yellow of the window finds your shoulders for the length of perhaps 4 paces, and then your shoulders pass out of it, and the gray of the cobble takes you back. The bread will be on the shelf at 6. The first customer will come a little after. The hands that made the bread will, by then, have had their first sit-down of the morning by the range with a cup of the same coffee that warmed the center of your chest an hour and 10 minutes ago. You walk on. The sky, somewhere, has gone from gray to a slightly paler gray. You feel that, too,
before you see it. The lamps which had been sharing their work with the sky an hour ago are now beginning to lose their share, beginning very slightly to look less yellow, less essential, less like the only thing keeping the street from disappearing. You can see now the chimneys of the houses on the far side of the street, where an hour ago you could see only the lamps. You can see the small, pale rectangle where a curtain has been left half open in a first-floor window. You can see further on a thin column of smoke beginning to rise from a chimney that was not, an hour ago, smoking. Somewhere in that house, the first fire of the day has just been laid and lit.
The night does not stop. The day does not start. They only share, for these last 20 minutes, the same small gray air between them. You walk on. You come to your own door. It is a plain door. It is painted dark green. The paint, which you painted yourself last spring, is beginning to flake at the lower edge where the rain has been at it. There is a small brass number plate above the knocker with the number of the house, and a smaller brass plate below the knocker with no name on it. The doorstep is one slab of York stone, worn slightly in the center by the long, quiet arithmetic of feet. You stand on the worn place. You take the key from the small inner pocket of the wool coat. You put it in the lock. You do not yet turn it. You stand on the worn place for one more moment. The wisteria, 2 streets back, is still on its railings. The bakery window, 1 street back, is still yellow. The sky is, by now, a paler gray than it was when you saw the wisteria. The lamps are still burning, but they are losing. You turn the key. The door opens onto the small, cold hall you knew it would open onto. The smell of the hall, old wood, cold linseed, a faint trace of the coal you banked in the grate before you went out, comes to meet you. The wool coat on the peg behind the door has its place ready. You hang it up. You take off the boots. You set them side by side on the small piece of rag you keep by the door for the purpose. You stand for a moment in the cold hall. You are home. You have walked through a city that has, for these 4 hours, been gone. And the city, in its small, generous way, will be gone again tomorrow, at the same hours, for the same people who walk them. You climb the stair. You go to bed. The lamps outside are still burning. The night lets you go.
London Metropolitan Archives, Northampton Road, Clockenwell, May 2026. The reading room is on the first floor. It is at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning, very quiet. There are 6 long oak tables. There are 6 green-shaded reading lamps, 1 for each table, though the morning light from the tall windows is doing most of the work, and the lamps have not been switched on. The room has, in place of other sound, the soft electric hum of the climate control, a thin, steady note pitched a little above the threshold of being noticed, the way the gas lamps of another century made their own thin, steady note pitched a little above the threshold of being noticed on the streets 1.5 miles south of this building 150 years ago. You are not in the room. The room is not for you. The room is for the archivist, who is, at this hour, walking the length of the long oak corridor behind the reading room with a small gray acid-free document box on her arm. The box has on its short edge a typed label. The label reads, Bloomsbury and Fleet Street Ephemera, C. 1865, C. 1995, Box 47. She sets the box on a low trolley. She slides the trolley quietly into the reading room. She places the box on the third table from the door. She sets a small foam cradle beside it, and a pair of white cotton gloves, and a soft graphite pencil, and a sheet of cream-colored archival paper for note-taking. She goes back out. A young woman, the only reader in the room this morning, sits down at the third table. She puts on the white cotton gloves. She opens the box. Inside the box are perhaps 200 small printed and handwritten papers, each in its own clear archival sleeve, each catalogued with a small typed slip. Trade cards, program sheets, a funeral order from a parish chapel, 1879, a printed appeal for the relief of cab horses in winter, a handbill for a magic lantern lecture, Bouverie Street, 1882, a folded paper from a chandler's shop, Salisbury Court, 1891, with a cream-colored cheap printing on it that has gone, in the time between then and now, to a faint and patient yellow. The young woman lifts the chandler's shop handbill in its sleeve very carefully and lays it on the foam cradle.
The handbill is creased once down the middle. The crease is the original crease made by the hand of the woman who folded it on the night she wrote it. At one corner of the paper, faintly, there is the curved print of an iron base where the handbill rested for a few hours in the curl of a gas lamp before it was taken down. The young woman reads the handbill through the sleeve. It reads in a hand that slopes a little to the right. A small black cat, white at the throat and on 3 of his feet, answers to Tom. Last seen on the evening of Tuesday near the iron railings of St. Bride's churchyard. Reward for honest news. Apply at the chandler's shop, Salisbury Court, 1st floor. She turns the sleeve over. She reads the catalog slip. She copies the catalog number onto her cream-colored paper. She does not write anything else. She places the handbill very carefully back into the box. She closes the lid. The lid makes the small dry sound of acid-free card meeting acid-free card. She sets her hand on top of the box for one quiet second, the way you set your hand on top of something you have just thanked without speaking. The archivist will come back in a few minutes to take the box away. The box will go back to its shelf in the long oak corridor, where it has been for many years, and where it will be, by the small generous arithmetic of archives, for many more. The bell of a church somewhere outside the building rings the quarter hour. A footstep somewhere in the corridor passes once and is gone. A single black cab somewhere on Northampton Road ticks once at the traffic light and ticks once again as it moves on. You have walked through a city that has been gone for 150 years. You can let it go now. Sleep well.